All right, well today we're going to look at chapter 1.5, dividing integers. This is for the scholarship pre-algebra 7-8 class, so let's go ahead and get started with our first couple key ideas. The first key idea that we have, it goes along with the multiplying integers key idea that we learned our last lesson. So if you remember the rules that go with multiplying integers, the exact same rules apply for dividing integers as far as with the signs. So, to begin with, if you're dividing an integer or two integers with the same sign, the answer is always going to be positive. Now, if you're dividing integers, like two integers with different signs, your answer will always be negative. And this is true, again, if you have two integers you're doing this with. Now, keep in mind that if you divide by 0, the answer is always going to be undefined.
That you have 0 cookies, and you split them evenly among 0 friends. How many cookies does each person get? C. It doesn't make sense. And Cookie Monster is sad that there are no cookies. And you are sad that you have no friends.
So as you can see, Siri thinks this is true as well, therefore it's got to be true. But seriously, yeah, you cannot divide by 0. You can divide 0 by numbers, but you cannot divide by 0. Moving on to our first example. So let's look at this problem. If we have negative 18 divided by negative 6, well, remember we said that if we divide two negatives, the answer is always positive. So we already know the answer is going to be positive. With that in mind, we just say, what is 18 divided by 6, which would be 3. So in this case, the quotient is 3. That easy. Now, let's go ahead and look at when we have different signs. So if you recall, the rule states, if you divide two integers with different signs, the answer is always going to be negative. So we know the answer is going to be negative to begin with. And then we do 75 divided by 25. So if we have 75 cents divided by a quarter, we know there's 3 of them. So the answer is negative 3. All right. Now over here for part B, let's say we have negative 54 divided by positive 6. Again, a negative divided by a positive always gives us a negative answer. And then 54 divided by 6 is 9. And so our final answer is negative 9. All right, at this time, I want you to go ahead and try 1 through 6. There really isn't any work to show for these, so I don't expect any work, just our answers. So go ahead, hit pause, try them out, and then check your answers with me, see if we come up with the same results. Best of luck. I'll check in with you in just a moment. All right, so let's take a look. Number 1, we have 14 divided by 2, which they're both positive, so our answer is positive, and we get 7. Negative 32 for number 2. Negative 32 divided by negative 4. We have two negatives, which make it positive, and so we do 32 divided by 4, which is 8, and that is all we have here. Number 3, negative 40 divided by negative 8. So it's going to be a positive answer because these are both negatives. So we're going to have 40 divided by 8, which is 5. So far, so good. Okay, we have 0 divided by negative 6. So with 0 divided by negative 6, we can go ahead and say, well, if I have $0 and I divide it amongst negative 6 people, or 6 negative people, everybody gets $0. So this would end up getting us 0. Now, if we have negative 49 divided by positive 7, we have a negative divided by a positive, which means we're going to have a negative answer. And 49 divided by 7 is 7. Leaving us with number 6, 21 divided by negative 3. So we have a positive divided by a negative, so the answer is going to be a negative. 21 divided by 3 is 7. All right, there you go. Let's go ahead and move on to our next concept. All right, for example 3, evaluating an expression. Okay, So in this example, we are given 10 minus x squared divided by y when x equals 8 and y equals -4. So we're going to plug our values in for our variables. So I want you to do this problem alongside with me. I'm going to do this real quick. Move this up a little bit, give myself some more room. All right, so I have 10 minus x squared divided by y. And so I have 10 minus x is 8, so 8 squared, divided by -4. So we have to follow the order of operations, which, if you remember, order of operations, remember PEMDAS, so P-E-M, P-E-M-D-A-S, that stands for parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. So we're first going to look to see, are there any parentheses, which there is not. Then we have to decide, is there any exponents, which there is. And so the way we do this is we're going to go ahead and do, we have our 10 minus x squared, so, I'm sorry, 8 squared, so 8 squared is 64. And then divided by -4. And now we can go ahead and plug in, or do our next step in here. So our next step is, well, we have no other exponents, so now multiply or divide. We do have a division problem, so we're going to do that next. So -64 divided by -4 would get us -16. I'm going to put this in parentheses because it's 10 minus -16. And then we're going to go ahead and do our LCO, leave, change, opposite. 10 plus 16 is 26. And that is our answer. So, hopefully that made some sense to you. You're going to try a couple of these on your own. So why don't we try 7, 8, and 9 on our own, see how you do. And then hit pause when you are finished. Go ahead and resume and see how you did. All right? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So for number 7, we had A divided by B. Well, we know from the directions A is equal to 18, so I'll plug my, I'm sorry, -18, so I'll put my -18 here, divided by B, which is -6. If I'm dividing a negative by a negative, it's going to be positive, and 18 divided by 6 equals 3, so that is our answer. Let's go ahead and try our next one. We have A plus 6. So A is -18 plus 6, and then divided by 3. What you have to do is you have to complete what's on top of the numerator, I guess, first. Whatever's on top of the fraction first. It's kind of like it's in parentheses. So we're going to go ahead and do -18 plus 6, which would get us -12, divided by 3. And then -12 divided by 3 gets us a -4. So hopefully you got -4 for your answer. Finally, we have b squared divided by a plus 4. So we'll start off by, this is an important little lesson here. We have b is -6. So we have -6 squared. Well, if you just wrote it like this, that would say 6 squared, and then I'm going to make it a negative, which is not what we're doing here. We're taking the -6 and squaring it, so it's got to be in parentheses. I don't know if you remember, well, you may or may not remember this from before, but yes, you probably don't. So that is your rule here, is when you are squaring a negative, you have to put in parentheses because it's -6 times -6. So let me do this little thing for you over here. If I have -6 squared, what this means is this is 6 times 6 times the -1, which gives it the negative sign. And so you'd have 6 times 6 is 36 times -1, which gives us -36. Now, if we have -6 in parentheses squared, that is -6 times -6, which would be -6 squared, right? And so this would get us positive 36. So even though they look very similar, you get different answers. Now, sometimes you get the same answer, sometimes you don't. So you got to follow the rules all the time so you're always getting the correct answer. So, as I was saying, it's going to be -6 in parentheses squared divided by a, which is -18, and then plus 4. So we got to follow the order of operations. We're going to do our parentheses first. So when we do that, we're going to get positive 36 over -18 plus 4. And then we'll do 36, I'm sorry, that's -18. So 36 divided by -18, which would get us -2, plus 2, and that cancels out to get us an answer of, I'm sorry, I messed that up. That should be 4, I should bring down. That gives us an answer of positive 2. So you should have come up with positive 2 for the answer of that problem. All right, let's go ahead and look at our final example problem here, okay? In this problem, it says you measured the height of the tide by using the support beams of a pier. And the problem is right over here as far as the pier. You can see that information. And it says your measurements are shown in the picture right over here. So, what is the mean hourly change in the height? So, there's a couple things we have going on here. We know that at 2 p.m., the height was 59 inches. We know at 8 p.m., it was 8 inches. So the height has changed. It's gone down, right? And so that's what we have to do. We want to start off with the final height. And we're going to subtract what the initial height was. And then we'll divide it by the amount of time that this took place. So our final height is going to be 8 inches. And we're going to subtract the initial height, which was 59 inches. And then we're going to look from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. This was 6 hours. So we're going to divide it by 6. Now, what we're going to do at this point is we're going to subtract 8 minus 59. So 8 minus 59, this is the same thing as leave, change, opposite. So it's 59 minus 8, but it's going to be a negative number. And 59 minus 8 is 51. So we have negative 51 divided by positive 6. 6 goes into 51 8 times, right? So, and a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So 6 goes into negative 51 8 times. And so 51 minus 48 gives us 3. So we have 3 left over. And then over 6. So our answer would be either negative 8.5, or you could say negative 8.5. So we'd write our answer is this. The mean change in the height of the tide is negative 8.5 inches per hour. So that way we're seeing that the tide is going down, because it started off at 59 and it's going down, and it ended up at 8 inches. So we know that it's a negative change in height. So at this point, I'm going to have you guys try the last problem. It says the height of the tide at the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick decreases 36 feet in 6 hours. What is the mean hourly change of height? Now, I'm just going to point out that they already tell you how much it decreases, and they tell you how long it's going to be. So keep that in mind. It's slightly different from the last problem. It's actually a little bit easier. So they tell you how much it's changed, the final change, and they tell you how many hours. So you give it a try, see how you do. And if you get it wrong, it's fine. Just make the adjustment. Let's see if you can figure out what to do on your own. Okay, I'm going to pause this. You do it, and then check in with me in a moment. All right, so let's go ahead and do this, our last problem here. So, the height of the tide of the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick decreases 36 feet in 6 hours. What is the mean hourly change of the height? Well, as you know, previously we had to do the final height minus the initial height, but that gave us like it gave us the difference in height. Well, we already have that difference in height. It decreased 36 feet. So decreasing 36 feet would be negative 36. We're going to divide that by 6 hours to find out what the rate of decrease is. So negative 36 divided by positive 6. We're going to be a negative number because a negative divided by a positive is negative. And 36 divided by 6 equals 6. So negative 6. So the mean hourly change in height is negative 6 feet per hour. And there you have it. We are done with our lesson on dividing integers. If you have any questions, you know who to see. Best of luck with your lesson. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.